Hello everyone. I'm going to make another video on socialism, and today it's going to be that not all forms of socialism are equal. Not all forms of socialism are the same. Not all desires of socialism are the same. One problem with critics of socialism is they lump all socialists together and all socialist concepts together and all socialist plans together and all socialist governments together. Okay, you can't do that. All right, it's not a one. It's not just one. All right, they're different variations. The common variation, especially with modern socialism, is that the corporations basically run the governments, and we don't want that. We want the government to be responsible to the people, to serve the people, and not the corporations or foreign governments or politicians. That's the basic nutshell. Serve the citizens. Okay, but people see different things in that. A lot of from their own different ideas. Some of it from they don't understand. They don't understand certain things, so they want certain things are not possible, but they're on the right track, and so forth. Some things actually do work, but critics don't understand why it works, so on and so forth. So not all forms of socialism are equal. Not all socialists want the same thing. And a simple comparison, at least some analogies, is cake. All right? Not all cakes are the same. Not all pies are the same. Not all cookies are the same. They're different recipes. Okay? You can have different recipes for all this. Take religion like Christianity. There is no one Christianity. I mean, that's why we have so many different sects of Christianity. All right? Because people have different views on how their Christianity should operate. Okay, so you can't lump all Christians together, or all atheists together, or all cake recipes together. And you can't lump all socialists together or all socialist programs together. They're not the same. And a bigger analogy, and this is what really got me thinking, was comparing it to drugs. If you say the word drugs, drug includes everything from cocaine and heroin to aspirin and vitamin D. Okay, that it can include anything. So if you say drugs, we've got cocaine, we've got heroin, we've got marijuana, we've got LSD. We also have alcohol and wine and, I almost said marijuana. We have all these things put together. We also have aspirin, right? We have over-the-counter medications. We have, cold and flu medications. We have all the vitamins and the multivitamins and, vitamin D and vitamin C and all these different things. So all these can be lumped together as drugs. So if someone is talking about, okay, drugs are good, drugs are bad, drugs should be regulated, drugs do this, drugs do that, we can't have drugs because. You can't do that because you're talking about way too many things. You can't be talking about cocaine in the same way that you'd be talking about aspirin. You can't be talking about heroin in the same way that you'd be talking about vitamin D. All right? Even wine is different from LSD. You can't put all those things together as one lump thing and try to call it socialism. Drugs. And you can't do that with socialism. And to a certain extent, that also goes back with Marxism and communism. Now, Marxism is a bit more well-defined because it was, those ideas were developed by Marx. Okay? And communism in the original senses were a little bit more well-defined, and those were back several decades ago. But even those things, they're variations. Even with the Karl Marx ideas, there are variations. And even with communism, there are variations. And certainly with socialism, there are variations. There's a lot of variations. So, when people try to talk about this, don't try to put them all together. in more specific examples, for example, socialism does not have to include state control. Socialism does not have to include price controls. Socialism does not have to include redistribution of wealth. Socialism does not have to include 70%, 80% taxation. Those things are not required in a socialist system. They can be, they don't have to be. Socialism does not require free education, free university education, or free health care, but it can. You know, there are smaller versions of this. You know, for example, we may not want to fund free college tuition, but we certainly do provide government funding for state universities, right? And we provide public funding for all the public schools, K through 12. So, you know, we do give some government state operation of education, and you know, other related things. So there's certainly variations on all this of what can and can't be done with the socialist ideas. All right. Now it's true that some socialist people want higher taxation, but really, if we talk to them, what they really want is more for corporations to pay their fair share of taxes. Okay, which basically amounts to the same thing. It's not necessarily higher taxation, but paying their fair share of taxes instead of loopholes. Okay? Redistribution of wealth. A lot of socialists and so-called Marxists, I say Marxists in quotes because they're really socialists, but they're criticized by the, whomever. When they talk about redistribution of wealth, what the people want is simply more money back to the people rather than money going up to the corporations or money going out to the foreign governments. They would just really rather have money going back to the people and stay within the loop of the country. And some of them don't realize that, so they're pushing for redistribution of wealth in other ways. But mostly, socialists just want a government that serves the people, where the money is circulated back to the people, where everyone pays their fair share of taxes, where there's equal treatment under the law, equal punishment for offenses. Corporations and foreign governments don't rule us, we rule us. All those sorts of things. Okay? So, like the drugs, like Christianity, like drugs, like a lot of the other terms, you can't put them all together in one thing. There are many, many, many variations. Which is why also I want conservatives, I'm a conservative, to adopt socialism. I want you to first get to say socialism is good. Socialism is good. Now that you can say that, now let's talk about the specifics of what kind of socialism. If we're talking about like a recipe for a cake, what kind of ingredients do we want to use? You can't just ban all cakes. You can't just ban all pies. You can't just ban all Christianity. Right? And you can't just ban all socialism. You can't just lump it together. Say, yes, socialism is good. Though the right kind. All right, now we have an equal footing. Now let's have a discussion. What kind of socialism do we need? What do we want in our socialism? What does not make sense in socialism? And if somebody offers a proposal, you can explain to them how that can be better achieved. For example, instead of asking for 70% taxation on corporations, say, fine, leave them with the percentage they are, but make them pay their taxes, all of them, instead of loopholes. That basically amounts to the same thing. Fewer discussions. But first and foremost, begin by agreeing that socialism is good. Socialism is how a free democratic society should operate. Then go from there. That's all.